Tonight is a very interesting night. Tonight is Baomer. Baomer. Which you already know. But essentially we're celebrating the Yortzeit. It's an interesting thing to celebrate a Yortzeit as opposed to commemorate a Yortzeit, to be sad on a Yortzeit. We're happy regarding the Yortzeit. The better thing about today's Yortzeit is it's supposed to be the passing of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. But there's not a really good Jewish source that says that today is the Yortzeit of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So essentially, we're celebrating a Yortzeit that may or may not be today. Celebrating a man who supposedly wrote the Zohar, the holiest book in Kabbalah, who may or may have not actually written the Zohar. There are many opinions that he did not write the Zohar, or at least not the entire Zohar. But I won't get into that tonight, because tonight's not Baomer. That's maybe like a Shavuot discussion. So we're celebrating a Yortzeit as opposed to commemorating a Yortzeit of a man who may or may not have died on this day, who authored a book he may or may not have actually authored. And for me, this sounds like a crazy day. But really, you should know that that's what this night is all about. This night is about Sod. This night's about Kabbalah. This night's about things that don't necessarily add up. And we're okay with things that don't add up. You know, the big fight between Chachmei Israel and Chachmei Yavan, between the sages of Israel and the sages of Greece, are whether 1 plus 1 always equals 2. Chachmei Israel say that not always does 1 plus 1 equal 2. Man, it's not always A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. Sometimes it's different. In our secular logic, that doesn't really make sense. But the more you delve into Torah HaSod, the more you discover that not everything that you think is logical is truly logical, and not everything you find illogical is truly that illogical. Rather, Sod is an area of murky waters. And the more you delve into it, the murkier it gets, but also the more light it sheds on the Neshama. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is an interesting personality. We're going to talk tonight about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. A lot about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. I'm going to be handing out soon a piece of Zohar. We're going to learn together some Zohar and discover not the life of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, but what the passing of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai looked like, what according to the Zohar actually happened today. But in order to start off tonight the right way, I ask if everyone could please stand up. We're going to sing the first song about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. The song is separated, not those, no. It was Shaar, because I might not have enough. Oh, there's some extras. The song is split up into 10 stanzas, corresponding to the 10 sfirot. There's actually an 11th one that's not part of the original song, but they threw it in there because they thought it was nice. The song was written by Rabbi Shimon Halevy. Rabbi Shimon Halevy was one of the greatest Mekubalim who ever lived. I just saw a commentary of his on the book of Bereshit that's 2 volumes long. An incredible Mekubal that was persecuted his whole life because people said he was a follower of Shabtai Tzvi, the false Messiah, which wasn't true. But it's the reason why this song isn't found in all the Sidurim in the world, but only in certain Sidurim. This song, we open up Friday night with it. There's a song we say before Kiddush in many communities, sometimes at Kabbalah Shabbat, sometimes during the meal. And the song we sing together, but there's one part that if you don't know the whole song, you can definitely sing with me. So let's try this. I'm going to do it a few times, you're going to get the hang of it. Bar Yochai. Repeat after me. Bar Yochai. Bar Yochai. Bar Yochai. Bar Yochai. If you have bongo drums, I expect you to continue the song. Since you showed me that you know how to do this, at least the words Bar Yochai you have to sing with me, alright? Bar Yochai nimshachta shnecha shemen tzazor mevaverech. Bar Yochai shemen mishchat kodesh nimshachta mimidat hakodesh. Nasata tzit nezer hakodesh chavushat rosh רב אפרים תמליך מלך בן דוד, בירושלים ותביט, לעני עמך ברחמים, ותפן ברוך אתה, אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן.
Make sure you send that out.
I want you to hold on to that piece of paper. Hold on to that piece of paper. And I'm going to pass around a second piece of paper.
You can see where he's sitting there.
Oh, you can see it, okay.
Pass this around.
Make sure.
I want to tell you a story. When I was in yeshiva in Baltimore, Baomer was not a thing. What do I mean by not a thing?
They didn't do it.
In the Lithuanian world, Baomer is just one of those days. You don't say tachanun in the morning, and that's it. Bonfires, unheard of. Parties, unheard of. Baked potatoes in a fire, unheard of. All the holy customs. Marshmallows on the... unheard of. Just, it was a day that you didn't say tachanun. Baomer really became important to me when I went to Israel. In Israel, it's like the exact opposite. Everyone celebrates Baomer. Last night, or really tonight, to Meron, thousands of people couldn't get on the buses. There were not enough buses in the state of Israel to get people to Meron. One year when I was there, the buses stopped an hour and a half before Meron, and people just walked. Imagine that, like going to LA and getting off in Orange County. Just walk. You go to Meron, that's like a whole different celebration. Meron, and I can't tell you what goes on over there. It's an incredible thing. When I went to Israel, I discovered something else too. Not just Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. I discovered one of my mentors, one of my teachers. Where's Yosef? He was here also. Oh, one of our teachers also, Rabbi Shlomo Katzin. He's one of my rabbis, one of the most brilliant rabbis that I know. He was here in San Diego. He was the sandak by Yosef Shalom's brief. Yeah? And the first time I got to know him, I realized that in Israel, rabbis are different than in America. In one way, they're a little more real. In the other way, they don't have to fit into a box that you fit in when you're a pulpit rabbi here in this side of the world. Things are much less formal over there. The first thing that struck me was when I came into yeshiva and I met the rabbi, and he invited me into his office while he was taking off his jacket and rolling up his sleeves. Now that might not mean anything to you, but when I was in Baltimore and I knocked on my rabbi's door, there was a 5-minute delay between knocking and opening the door. He had to put on his tie, he had to put down his jacket, he had to put on his hat, and then he can open the door for you. Here was like the exact opposite. It's a different world. And at first it was hard for me to get used to it. Still not easy, but it was hard for me to get used to it. My friend got married, and we really wanted him to meet Rabbi Katzin. Rabbi Katzin wasn't able to make it to the wedding. So we had a third mutual friend who was getting married. Rabbi Katzin was doing the wedding. We figured we'd come to the wedding and we'd meet this friend. So we come to the table. It's my friend, his wife, myself, and Rabbi Katzin. We're sitting at a table together at this wedding. And Rav Katzin taught me a very interesting lesson in Derech Eretz. He said, if you want to get good food at a wedding, give the waiter $20. So he'll make sure that you always get the food first, that you get the best food that's coming out of the kitchen. As he did, he bribed the waiter. We got more food at that table than the other table in the world. At the end, the cook came out of the kitchen. He won $20 also. He came out of the kitchen. And here he's putting on this whole serious appearance like he's a Rosh Hashiva, and my friend's wife meets him, it was a nice get together. And the cook comes out and says, "No, how was the food, Rabbi?" And Rabbi Katzin with a straight face tells him, you know, the food was so good that when I get divorced, I'm going to make my divorce party here.
It's so funny, just funny.
My friend's wife almost fell out of her chair. I had no idea what just happened. But that's Rabbi Katzin, and I learned very quickly that that kind of sense of humor happens a lot in that world, something that, again, would never happen to me in America. But why am I telling you that? Because this concept of a divorce party, it sounds crazy.
Yeah.
You get divorced and you make a divorce party. Well, there are some people, by the way,
It's very modern.
they say there was once a husband and his wife, they went out to a very fancy restaurant, and the wife keeps looking at the bar. There's one guy who's drunk at the bar. And she just keeps looking at him, and her husband's like, his 20th wedding anniversary. And he's feeling a little bit like, why is she looking at him, not talking to me? He says, what's going on? Who's that guy at the bar? That was my ex-husband. That's your ex-husband? What's he doing here? He said, I heard that since we broke up, he hasn't had a sober day in his life. And he says, wow, that's incredible. So what's incredible about that? He said, I didn't know someone could party for so many years. When I was learning Gemara, I came across the story of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And this is when I fell in love with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Because until then, he was just the author of the Zohar to me. He was just a guy who we made bonfires for on Lag Baomer. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was also a rabbi in a Beit Din. He was a rabbi of a community. And there was once a couple that came to him in the Beit Din. And they said, Rabbi, we've been married for 10 years. And according to Jewish law, if a couple's married for 10 years, and they haven't had children, it's time to move on and to find another spouse, so maybe they could have children with them. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said, no, so why are you coming to me? They said, we don't want to do it. We don't want to get divorced. So Rabbi Shimon tells them, how about this? I can't help you. You know, the law is the law. The halakha is the halakha. You have to move on. It's a mitzvah to have children. But let me give you a suggestion. You know, everything in the world, the way you enter it is the way you exit also. You enter Shabbat with a glass of wine, you exit Shabbat with a glass of wine. You enter Shabbat with candles, you exit Shabbat with candles. On Friday night in the Sephardic community, we also smelled psamim. Because on Motzei Shabbat, you also smell psamim. You always exit the way you enter. You put on tefillin in the morning if your custom is sitting down. You also take them off while you're sitting down. If you put on your tefillin standing up, if that's your custom, you also take off your tefillin standing up. Everything you do you take 3 steps forward into your Amidah, you take 3 steps backwards at the end. In Judaism, there's always this balance. The way you go in is the way you come out. He says you got married with a wedding in a hall, with music, with wine, with dancing. He said you have to get divorced the same way. You have to make a divorce party. Oh, Rabbi Katzin was onto something. A divorce party. And that's what happens. They make a divorce party. They invite all their friends. They walk them down to the get. I don't know exactly what happened at the divorce party. And they were celebrating, they were singing, and the husband, he got a little bit drunk. And before he passes out in his chair, he tells his wife, he says, you know, I love you so much. So we're going to go to divorce and settlements and all kinds of order we have to make. I want anything you want. Anything you want, the house, the horses, whatever you want, just take it. And then he passes out in his chair. He wakes up in the middle of the night with a severe hangover. The Gemara tells the story. It's not, I'm not making it up. He wakes up with a severe hangover in his father-in-law's house, laying on the couch. If you are going to have a hangover, the last place you want to wake up is in your father-in-law's couch. And he wakes up and says, what's going on here? What am I doing? And his wife is waiting over there in the living room. And she says, you told me that whatever I want, I should take. And really the only thing that I wanted from our marriage was you. So I told my servants to pick you up on their back and to carry you to my father's house. They went back to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and he was so happy to hear the story. He gave them a blessing, and 9 months later, he was at the brit of that child that came from this country. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai wasn't just the author of the Zohar. He wasn't just an esoteric master. He was able to connect worlds. He knew that he had the power to give a blessing to have a child. But he knew that that couple had to go through something first. They had to experience something first. They had to be pushed up against the wall of maybe this is all going to end. What am I going to take with me? When everyone else is thinking about money, they're thinking about custody, they were thinking about each other. And he said a couple like that deserves to have a child. He gave him a bracha, and that was Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. I sometimes wonder what would happen if that story happened in my synagogue. A couple comes to me. Would I have the audacity to tell them, make a divorce party? And would they even listen to me? So I'm fair. I'm not Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Nobody's going to listen to me like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. But that compassion that he had, that understanding of humans that he had, was something very special. And it's not for nothing that when he passed away, you have tens of thousands of people that go to his grave. The Jewish people feel a connection with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. It was Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai who stood up for us. There's a tractate of Talmud that says the Torah will be forgotten from the Jewish people. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai stands up and says, no, it will not be forgotten. I refuse the Torah should be forgotten from the Jewish people. Ki lo tishakach mipi zaro, says Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. The Torah will never be forgotten from the children of Israel. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov says, Ki, what's the last letter of the word Ki? Yud. Lo, what's the last letter? Aleph. Tishakach. Okay. Mipi. Yud. Zaro. Vav. Spells out Yochai. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, through my teachings, through my Zohar, as it says in the Zohar, with this book, Kad nafkun Israel min galuta. The Jewish people are going to leave exile. Something about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. The Rebbes are at his grave tonight. The tzaddikim, the mekubalim, the simple people, the Jews who've never been to synagogue since last year, Lag Baomer. Everybody's at Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai right now. He was a uniting factor of the Jewish people, a unifying force. And that's the energy we're trying to connect to tonight. This feeling of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai being larger than just a Kabbalist, larger than just an esoteric sage, but really a father of the Jewish people. Hashem loved Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai that much also. And so I printed out for you a piece of Zohar. This is Zohar translated into Hebrew. I figured if I was going to put Aramaic and then translate it to Hebrew, then translate it to English, you'd be holding Megillat Esther. So I figured I would just do the Hebrew, and it's a compromise between English and Aramaic. From the death of a righteous person, you can learn a lot about life. How Peretz, should live and be well, was at the bedside of the Ger Rebbe. The Ger Rebbe, when he passed away. Not this Rebbe, the previous Ger Rebbe. And before the Ger Rebbe passed away, Peretz was in the room. He told his children, stand up, your uncle is here. Stand up, your grandfather is here. Stand up. And he said all the family members, so they all came to take my neshama. And he looked at them, he said, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, and he passed away. At that moment he passed away. Halav Kuk, Halav Shalom, the first chief rabbi of the state of Israel, not the state of Israel, the land of Israel, who wasn't the state yet. Halav Kuk, Halav Shalom, when he was ready to pass away, he told his students, please go to the other side of the room. He turned onto his side. He said, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. And when he finished the letter Dalet, he passed away. For tzaddikim, the distance between this world and the next world is not so great. To prepare to go to the next world is kind of like when you get on an airplane. You come 2 hours before departure, you put in your bags, you get your stuff ready, you get on the airplane and you land somewhere else. For tzaddikim, it's not death. It answers our first question. So why do we celebrate tonight? Because for a tzaddik, he didn't go anywhere. Nothing bad happened to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai just went on to his next destination. For a simple person, for a Jew like you and me, maybe you're not, maybe you're a tzaddik, but for me, passing away, death is a very scary thing. We don't want to deal with that. We don't want to experience that. We cry when we experience such a thing. But Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai that was what he was waiting for. His life was waiting to reach the point where he could go on to a world that was greater than this one. Let's read together. Be'oto yom, on the same day, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai amad lehistalech min ha'olam. The same day that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai knew he was going to pass away, hitasvu etzlo talmidav hagdolim. He gathered together the greatest of his students. V'haya Rabbi Shimon sameach tzimcha gdola. He was very happy. He was very happy. What can we learn from here? There are some things in life that are inevitable. They're going to happen anyways. The only difference in how we experience them is the choice we make. Are we going to appreciate it, or are we going to struggle through it? Our kids are going to leave home. They're going to go on to high school, to yeshiva, to college. You can either cry your eyes out about it, or you can build a path. You can accept it already now that they're going to grow up, and make sure that you're ready for that day, that you appreciate that day, that you're there for them in the ways that they're now going to need you when they're not home. Everything in life is going to happen. The question is, how ready are you willing to be for it? We're going to go to the next world. Why get so scared about it? Why get so scared about it? Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, I'm happy. I'm ready to go. Everything in life. A person's about to lose their job. You can throw a tantrum, or you can realize Hashem closes this door because He wants to open another one. Someone said a beautiful quote. It says, when a door closes in your face, just open it. That's a door. That's how they work. In life, sometimes the door closes, so just open up in the door. But don't get sad that the door closed. It means you're on to something bigger and better. B'ota Shaar, that same moment. So, now let's skip this paragraph. Kol oto hayom. That same day. I see that Zohar wants me to go back a paragraph. B'ota Shaar, that same moment. Soveva esh et habayit. A fire surrounded Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's house. V'yatzu kulam v'yashin b'chutz. Everyone got up and they left the house. They couldn't stay in the house. There was a fire surrounding the house. V'rach hatalmidim hamiyuchadim nisharu b'bayit. And only a select few of the students were able to stay inside of the house. Amar Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, HaSha'a hi sha'at ratzon. Now is a special time. It's an auspicious moment in front of Hashem. V'ani rotzeh lavo bli busha l'olam haba. And I want to come to the next world without any embarrassment. Yesh dvarim chashuvim u'kedoshim shelo giliti ad ata. There are some very holy and important things that I didn't reveal yet. Hem hayu nistarim belibi, they were hidden in my heart. U'cha'et higia ha'sha'a legalutam lifnei hashchina u'likanes behem l'olam haba. There's a word you've probably heard of before. That's called a tikkun. According to the Torah of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, we all come into this world to accomplish something. The Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh says that sometimes we were only brought into this world to give someone else a glass of water. And that way, every time you give someone a glass of water, you should sing and dance till you finish your tikkun. That was what you came to the world to do. When I was a child, there was a man in our community. His name was Ezra. And he was very, aside from many other things, he was very talented with his hands. Built me, every time I come to his house, built me some kind of toy out of wood. And he started a project in his lifetime to build a new Aron Kodesh and a bima and all kinds of beautiful furniture for the synagogue. If I remember correctly, when he finished his project, he passed away. And at his shiva, one of the rabbis who was there said that it must have been his tikkun. This was that last thing that he knew he had to accomplish in his life. And he finished it, and Hashem gave him the ability to be able to go to the next world and say, I have nothing to be embarrassed about. You sent me to the world to accomplish everything I did. I did it till the last nail. I finished my job, and I came to the next world ready and prepared. We want to also be like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. If there are good things in your life that you think you can do, and you're holding back from doing them, tonight's the night to say, I'm changing my mind. I'm not holding it anymore. If you ever thought that there's something you should speak about, there's a topic you should teach, there's something that you're passionate about, a cause you want to be an activist for, now is the night to say, stop being embarrassed. Stand up and do something. There was a book you always wanted to write. I don't know what about. Write it. Stop looking at me, Marlene. There's something you wanted to do. There's a person you wanted to help. There's someone you wanted to make up with that you've been fighting for too long. Now is the night to say, listen, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be here, but I want to make sure that before I leave here, I finish what I need to do. I finish my tikkun. Like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. To go into the next world, complete, proud, accomplished. Amar Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, I skipped the paragraph. Kol oto hayom, lo nifseka esh me'habayit, v'lo haya mi she'yagia alav. That entire day there was a fire surrounding the house, says the Zohar, and nobody was able to approach the house. כי לא יכלו מפני האש והאור שהיו מסביב אותו לאחר שפסקה האש. Rabbi Abba says that after the fire stopped, ראיתי את המאור הקדוש, קודש הקודשים, רבי שמעון, שנסתלק מן העולם. The first student came into the house and he saw that once the fire disappeared, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's soul had left the world. Tell me, who else passed away in fire? Went up to heaven in a fire. Eliyahu Navi. You should know there are stories in the Gemara, not even in the Zohar, of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai meeting Eliyahu Navi in the street. And normally the people greet Eliyahu Navi by saying, Shalom Alecha Rabbi Mori, hello my master and my teacher. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was on a first name basis with Eliyahu Navi. You read in the Talmud, he says, oh, who's with you? That's how Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was on a level that he spoke to Eliyahu Navi face to face. Amar Rabbi Shimon says in the Zohar, Rabbi Abba Yichtov, my student Rabbi Abba, he should write all of my teachings. Rabbi Elazar b'ni yilmod b'fiv, and my son Rabbi Elazar, he should be the one learning. Ushaar chavarim yidovevu b'libam et hadvarim she'omar ata, and the other students, they should not say out loud the words that I'm saying now, because it's not yet ready to be revealed into the world. והיה רבי שמעון דורש בדברים גדולים ועמוקים העומדים ברומו של עולם. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, says the Zohar, started teaching secrets that we don't even have recorded in the Zohar, because they're too great, they're too holy, they weren't meant for everybody. כשהגיע רבי שמעון לקראת סיום דבריו, when Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai finished his writing, אמר את הפסוק, כי שם ציווה אדוני את הברכה חיים עד העולם. אמר רבי אבא, לא סיים המאור הקדוש רבי שמעון לומר חיים. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai didn't finish saying the word Chaim. What does Chaim mean? Life. עד שנפסקו דבריו, until he stopped talking. Until he stopped talking. ואני כתבתי וחשבתי לכתוב עוד. And I was writing, and I wanted to write more. ולא שמעתי ולא הרימותי את ראשי. He said, but I couldn't hear anything. And I didn't lift up my head. כי האור היה גדול, because the light that was surrounding Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was intense. ולא יכולתי להסתכל, and I wasn't able to look at him. ובתוך כך נזדעזעתי, and I became shaken. שמעתי קול קורא ואומר, אור החיים ושנות חיים יוסיפו לך. ושמעתי קול אחר, חיים שאל ממך נתת לו. He hears voices. And if you and I were to hear voices, I would say, I know a good psychiatrist to go talk to. But when the students of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai are hearing voices, they are hearing what's called in Hebrew a bat kol, a heavenly voice. There's a level of communication here that's happening. You know, for a long time, I used to ask, why do we light a bonfire on Lag Baomer? I used to always get this answer. We light a bonfire, it's like a big yortzeit candle for Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. That's not the truth. The truth is that this fire is nothing compared to the fire that Hashem surrounded Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai with. We're hoping that while we're sitting around this fire, we're going to hear something. We're going to hear a voice. Who's going? Mashiach's coming?
That's a bad call.
Eliyahu Navi is on the other side of that phone. Shaul, you're going to be a very rich man. This next paragraph is a repetition about the fire. But at the end it says that when they came in, they found Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Shenitateh, for the third to last line of that paragraph, he was covered with a talit. V'shofar al yamino, and there was a shofar in his right hand. I saw in the Zohar today that it says V'shochev al yamino, that he was laying on his right. I don't know if there's two different versions here in the Zohar, or if there's two different understandings of what that means. But suffice it to say that holy things were happening with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai at this moment. Ufanav tzachakot, and the expression on his face was one of laughter. He passed away laughing, smiling, happy. התחילו החברים בבכייה ולא יכלו לפתוח את פיהם. All the students of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, says the Zohar, burst out crying, and nobody was able to say a word. I remember the day that Chacham Ovadia Yosef passed away. It wasn't so long ago. When I heard the news, I couldn't believe it. I mean, we knew that Chacham Rabbi Yosef was sick, but that he was going to pass away. Don't need fast. It doesn't. I was in Israel now. I still can't believe it. He's not alive. So today, you want to come with me to Chacham Avadia's grave? I said, grave? We used to go to Chacham Avadia's house to pray with him. And there were a few days after Chacham Avadia passed away, people couldn't talk. People couldn't speak. We were unable to say anything. Imagine Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. He passed away, nobody knows what to do. The students of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, they're not even able to say a word. V'kach nimshach hadavar. And this kept going on for a long time. People were speechless. Ad shamad Rabbi Chia v'amar. And here's the next lesson that we have. Rabbi Chia stands up and he says, Ka'et en azman. It's not the right time to be quiet. Ela lishtadel b'chvodo. Now is the time to take care of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and to make sure he receives a proper burial. Rabbi Chia is telling us that there are times in life where our natural reaction, our instinct, is to be overcome with grief. It's to be sad. It's to be broken. But that's not always the proper reaction. Sometimes we have to say, in that grief, what are we going to do? We have to have a plan for the future. We have to know what's happening next. There are times where you can't be overcome. You can't be overwhelmed. The Vilna Gaon, he lost a child at Shabbat. And he heard the news. And he told his wife, you can't cry. It's Shabbat. And he closed the door where his son was. And he sat at the table. And he had his Shabbat meal. He did Havdalah. And as he said the words, Hamavdil ben Kodesh lechol, and they put out the candle, he burst out crying on the table. Sometimes a person has to know that as crazy as it sounds, I must be in control of my emotions. Someone cuts me off on the freeway. I can't start screaming and cursing and showing them all kinds of fingers. You have to drive safely. There's people in your car. You can't lose yourself. I know that's your gut reaction. But sometimes you have to be in control of yourself. If there's a guy riding a horse and the horse is telling the rider where to go, the rider is not in charge. It's a very dangerous thing for the rider. And I didn't believe that story about the Vilna Gaon until last week. My father-in-law took me on a tour of his old neighborhood. And when I say old neighborhood, I mean old neighborhood. It's old. Shaarim, the little alleyways, the ones that I never went into. He took me to this place and that place. This is where he grew up. This is where his grandfather lived. This is where they would throw rocks at people. This is where all kinds of nice stories that happened. This is where the Jordanians would shoot them. All kinds of, stories that happened over there. And he told us the same exact story. That one of the tzaddikim in his house, in his neighborhood, he would go, all the boys would go to his house for Friday night for a little tish. The Hasidim, they get together, they sing, they dance. And someone passed away in his home. And this rabbi, Friday night, came to the table and held a tish for 40 boys. And sang with them and danced with them. It's Shabbat, it's Shabbat. Now it sounds like an extreme case. It doesn't have to be so extreme. Now rabbis tell us when you want to get angry at your child, you're allowed to discipline your child, but never out of anger. Why never out of anger? What kind of message do you pass off when someone does something? Hey, you're screaming, you hit the khalil, all kinds of things that people can do. Rather, the best way to, if you're trying to educate, the best, cool down, and then come over to your child. Pretend you're angry. You don't have to show that you're calm. Pretend that you're angry, but make sure that you are in control of your actions. I once saw somebody hit their child. I got involved. It wasn't my child. I took the child away from them. Someone like that, they should put in prison. I don't care what your opinion on raising children. The way he was hitting his kid in front of everybody while he was angry, I would put him in prison. You can't do things out of anger. It's dangerous. Rabbi Chia is telling us there are times in life where you have to be in control. In the most moments full of grief, you have to be in control. There was a tzaddik that passed away not so long ago. And they didn't appoint a successor. I'm not mentioning names. The tragedy is that one of the movements that can change the face of this planet became decapitated, and nobody is there to save it. It was a mistake. Instead of grieving, there should have been action. An action to push that movement forward to save the rest of humanity. It didn't happen. It's never too late. Let's continue. So what happens? Now that they're ready to bury Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, what do Jews do best? Tell me. We fight. We fight. We're really good at it, by the way. Yeah, we are. They say there was once a synagogue. A new young rabbi came, took over the synagogue, and it came time for Shema Yisrael. There was always fighting in the synagogue. Some of the people said you have to stand up for Shema Yisrael. The other people said you have to sit down for Shema Yisrael. And they would scream, no, this is our custom, that's the custom. They would scream, they would fight, they would throw things at each other. And so the rabbi said, listen, I can't keep going this long. Every time we pray, they're screaming at each other. So they figured out there's one elder of the community. He's in a senior home. They're going to go ask him, what's the custom of the synagogue? So they sit with him, the board, the members, the rabbi. And the rabbi says, sir, what was the custom in the synagogue? We stood up for Shema? He says, no, now that I think about it, I don't remember. Just tell me, did we, I said stand? Did we sit for Shema? He says, I really don't remember. So what do you guys do now? So well, now half of us stand, half of us sit, and we're screaming at each other and throwing things. That was the custom. We have a long history of such things. It's not a new thing. So they have the body of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai there. He's wrapped up in a talit. Who knows? Maybe Hashem. I don't know who wrapped him up. An angel came and wrapped him up. Bao and Shay Tzipori. Came the people of Tzipori. Who here is from the north in Israel? You ever been to Tzipori? It's a beautiful place, Tzipori. I once went there walking, and there were all kinds of pomegranates growing. A beautiful place.
Where is it exactly?
It's not far from Haifa.
You know Kehillat on the one between Kehillat and Natzeret?
But the Galilee, it's called
About
Galilee.
halfway, it's next to Bikat Benetofa.
It's a beautiful place. And Shay Tzipori, the people of Tzipori, they have a stereotype in the Jewish community of being big, tough guys. You ever met Ger Hasidim? Same thing. They're like the bodyguards of the Hasidic movement. They're tough, big guys. Same thing with the people of Tzipori. You needed something to get done, you called up the guys in Tzipori. So they show up. Anashim Chazakim, the Zohar says they're strong people. Uvikshu bikach likbaot Rabbi Shimon b'mkomam. They were fighting over. They wanted him to be buried in Tzipori. They wanted to steal the body. Anshe Meron, the people of Meron, they came over. Girshu utam. They scared them away. Tzaku aleim, they screamed at them. Mipnei sheratzu shikaber etzlam, because they wanted Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai to be buried in Meron. And if you want to know why Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was buried in Meron, it's because they won. There was a fight between the people of Tzipori and the people of Meron, and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was buried in Meron. כשיצא המיטה מן הבית, when the coffin came out of the house, היה עולה באוויר, it was floating in the air. ואש הייתה לוהטת לפניה, and there was fire burning in front of it. שמעו קול, they heard a voice from heaven. בואו והתקבצו להילולה של רבי שמעון. This voice from heaven was telling all the angels, come together, we're having a celebration with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. יבוא שלום, he should come in peace. ינוחו על משכבותם, his body should rest in peace, but his soul is going to come up. In heaven, they planned a party for Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And the students that were they weren't carrying the coffin, they were escorting the coffin, they heard that in the next world there was going to be a celebration. So tonight, the reason we celebrate, the second answer that we have, is because when he passed away, the angels celebrated. So we also celebrate tonight. כשנכנס למערה, when he came into the cave, שמעו קול בתוך המערה, they heard a voice. The voice said, זה האיש, this man, מרעיש הארץ, he makes noise in the whole world, מרגיז ממלכות, he makes the kingdoms angry. כמה מקטרגים ברקיע מסתלקים כיום הזה בשבילך. How many evil decrees that were supposed to happen to the Jewish people were annulled because of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Zehu Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai Adonenu Shakadosh Baruch Hu Mishtadach Bo B'chol Yom. This is the same Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai that Hashem says he's so praiseworthy to have a servant like him, like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. I want to just tell you a last story. Maybe two last stories. Why is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai accused of making kingdoms angry? Somebody know the story? My father knows the story. There were three rabbis that were sitting down together. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And these rabbis were having a discussion about the Romans. And one said, look at these streets the Romans made, these freeways, look at the marketplaces they built, the bathhouses. They've really done good work, these Romans. Shopping malls, yeah, that's it. The second rabbi, Rabbi Yosef, was quiet. He didn't want to get involved. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said, hey, you think that they're building it for you? They build freeways so they can tax you on it. They build stores, they can make money off of you. And a few other things I don't want to repeat here. When the kingdom, the Roman government, heard what was said at this meeting, they said, Rabbi Yehuda, who praised us, he should be praised. Rabbi Yosef that was quiet, we're going to exile him. He moved, by the way, to Tzipori. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that said bad about us, we should kill him. There was a bounty on his head, and that's why Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai runs away. He goes to hide in a cave. Right? We say, in that cave that you lived inside of for how long? 12 years, and then 13 months, so a year and a month afterwards. He stays in that cave. He comes out after a year. 12 years, he's in a cave, studying the secrets of Kabbalah. He comes out. You can't imagine what kind of person he was. You can't imagine how holy of a person he was. He comes out of that cave, and Rabbanit, he sees
A farmer.
He
Plowing
sees
the field.
a farmer. And he looks at his farmer and says, that's what I spent 12 years studying Kabbalah, and all you could do is plant trees in the ground. And he burns them with his eyes. And Hashem says, I sent you out of a cave to destroy my world. Get back in your cave. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai goes into this cave for 13 months. The number 13 in Kabbalah has significance. Why 13 months? He comes out after 13 months, and the first thing Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai does, what does he do?
The old man.
He sees two guys
Yeah,
to
with the sun. Adasim.
That's not the first thing he does. He sees a road.
Oh, he clears the road.
And on this road, the Kohanim weren't able to walk on it because there maybe once was a cemetery there. And the Kohanim had to walk around in a very long route. And he gets down on all fours and clears. He starts digging and digging and digging until he moves all the bones to the side of the road and clears the road for the Kohanim. Our Kabbalists say there were two phases of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's life. The first one was an intense Torah scholar attitude of, the world is a terrible place, look at these evil people. They're not involved in Torah all day long. They make mistakes. They're such evil people, I wish I could burn them with my eyes. Hashem says, I don't need Torah scholars like that in my world. I don't need people who are going to burn other Jews with their eyes. Get back in your cave. Go back to yeshiva. It's a good thing, by the way, that some people stay in yeshiva. You should know. It's better. There was once a Rosh Yeshiva in Israel. He said, you want all these boys out of yeshiva. You don't know, you should pay me to keep some of these people in yeshiva. He said, I'm doing you a favor. Hashem says, come out again after 13 months. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai comes out with the Kabbalah that we know. A Kabbalah that doesn't burn the world. It doesn't hurt the world. It lights up the world. Recently I heard a Torah scholar speak all kinds of Kabbalah. It says you're going to burn like this, you're going to die like that, this is going to happen to your soul, Hashem is going to rip it to pieces, all kinds of wonderful things like that. I said, that's not Kabbalah of after 13 months. That's a scary Kabbalah. That's not for us. There's a Kabbalah that loves, that brings close. That's the Kabbalah that we try to learn here together. That's the Kabbalah that we try to teach here together. That's the Kabbalah you hear us quote at Kehillat, Shaar, HaShamayim. But there's one last message. And that message is, that when Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai passed away, it says that so many evil decrees happened in the world, they were annulled. They were itbatlu agzerot. Hashem took back these decrees. In 2009, I believe. Maybe it was 2008, don't hold me to it. I was at the funeral of Chacham Mordechai Eliyahu. I almost was happy at that funeral. I want to tell you why. I don't mean that in a bad way. Chacham Mordechai Eliyahu was one of the most precious tzaddikim in the world. You know, when they first printed my smicha certificate, there were 3 spots. One for Rabbi Katzin, one for Rabbi Peretz, and one for Rabbi Mordechai Eliyahu. And he was already too sick to sign, so they took back my certificate, erased his name, and printed a new one without his signature. He passed away before I was able to have the schut of going to get tested by him. Chacham Mordechai Eliyahu at his funeral, you know, you see pictures of other rabbis' funerals. It's all black hats, or it's all shtreimels, or it's all by Rav Mordechai Eliyahu. There were shtreimels, and there were kippahs, and there were velvet kippahs, and knitted kippahs, and there were no kippahs, and there were blue shirts and white shirts, and there were men, and there were women, and there were thousands and thousands and thousands of people. Every one of them was different. And when I was at his funeral, I said that there was a tzaddik that brought everybody closer, that brought everyone together, that made of Judaism that was beautiful, that united Am Yisrael. Those are the kind of tzaddikim we need to embrace. Those are the kind of tzaddikim we need to look for. Before he passed away, his wife, who's still alive, you can go get a bracha from her. She comes into his hospital room, and she sees Chacham Mordechai Eliyahu, white, like pale. And she says, Chacham Mordechai, the only time I've ever seen you look like that is on Yom Kippurim. She knew him very well. They were very close, these two. And he said, you know, I just came back from the Beit Din Shel Ma'ala. I just came back from the heavenly court. If you don't believe me, you can put this in Google. She wrote an article with these exact words in it. I just came back from the Beit Din Shel Ma'ala, from the heavenly court, and they told me that there's a number of tragedies that are supposed to happen to the Jewish people. Chacham Mordechai Eliyahu said, I stood in front of the Beit Din Shel Ma'ala. It's not a story that happened 2,000 years ago. 2009. So I stood in front of the Beit Din Shel Ma'ala, and I said, I don't want a refuah shlema. I don't want to be healed. Take me from this world and leave the Jewish people alone. Chacham Mordechai Eliyahu came back, and he told his wife to prepare. He's going to leave this world. He knew it. It was just a matter of time. It wasn't so much longer, so much later, that we were at the funeral of Chacham Mordechai Eliyahu. So why was I happy? I was happy because when we're sitting at a yortzeit of a Hidulah of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and we're celebrating, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is saying, don't be sad. Why shouldn't you be sad? Ki lo alman Yisrael, because the Jewish people were not orphans. There are still tzaddikim in Yerushalayim. There are still holy people in the world. We're so sad about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai who passed away. We're so sad about Chacham Mordechai Eliyahu who passed away. But they're saying, don't be sad. We have students. We have tzaddikim. There are more righteous people. There are 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva. There's more. And this is what I'm asking you on Lag Baomer. Look for a Talmidei Chacham. I just came back from Yerushalayim, and I sat in the yeshiva. Some of my friends that are still finishing up their track of smicha, that the only thing they eat on Shabbat are potatoes and rice. Because that's the only thing they can afford. One of my chavrutot, he told me that he eats peanut butter and jelly sandwiches 3 times a day, 6 days a week. And on Shabbat he eats potatoes. Connect yourself to the Talmidei Chachamim who are alive. There are Torah scholars, and more than they need you, you need them. We need them. Am Yisrael needs them. Am Yisrael needs Talmidei Chachamim who are holy, who are pure, who are students of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who are students of Chacham Ovadia Yosef, who are students of Chacham Mordechai Eliyahu, who are students of all the tzaddikim, di b'chol atal v'atal, in all the generations. It's time to stand up to say we want to be also students of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. We want to support the students of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. We want to learn Torah from the students of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And maybe if you let me, we'll sing one last song together, and then we'll continue our party the whole night. This song is a special song. It's a Hasidic song, but I'm perverting already the beginning, I'm going to tell you. It's not the way they sing it back in the shtetl, but it's close. And the reason we're not going to sing it that way, I want us to go around the room and get a chance for you to try to sing some of it also. It's not so scary. It's a very simple tune. The beautiful thing about Hasidic tunes is they're normally not so hard because they're meant for everyone to be able to sing along together. And so if you let me do one or two of the stanzas, I'm sure some of you who are more musically inclined will take on the next one. And I'm sure there's some of you who are less musically inclined will let you take on some of them also. B'ezrat Hashem. But I'm asking you just in honor of Yibshum Baruch Chai, take it upon yourself. Try to sing the song with us. Those of you who have bongo drums, I have an extra one right here if anybody wants. Who here plays drums?
Miriam, the keyboard's plugged in.
Who here plays drums?
I don't know the song. You play that top in it.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
What's the significance of the poem here?
Oh.
What?
The bow and the arrow.
Keshe.
I'll tell you the truth, it's not my custom.
It's Baka.
It's an old custom. And the Hasidic Rebbes, they do the bow and the arrow. Do you know why? You know, Chabad.org sent me an email today and they said, why do we do the bow and arrow? I should have clicked on the link today, shouldn't I? I'm telling you. The truth is I don't know because I don't do it. But maybe someone here knows. Does somebody know?
It's Baka for the thing of Baka, the war that they had.
Okay, so there was a war, a revolt, but I think there's more to it in Kabbalah.
Something about being in the field of Sadet.
No, the book. There's a book called Tamer Minagim.
I have it here, you can look it up.
I'm telling you, I looked it up last year. It didn't have so much information on it, so I don't know.
Shaul, I'm going to look it up and get back to you.
Kids used to go out and play with
That's
bows
right,
and
it's
arrows.
very easy.
When I go home, and I remember that.
There's this thing of being outdoors, about being in
Outdoor-
Sadet, like the people in the field.
I don't know, it's not my custom. I'm not so familiar with that. Shaul, I'm going to look it up for you.
The answer
Ah, it's a big deal.
Oh, Barry has an
The
answer.
answer I heard was, it was a remembrance of the time when Torah study was forbidden.
That's right.
And so what they would do is they'd go out to the field, study Torah, and then if any informers came along, or any of the people representing the government came along, all of a sudden they pulled out their bows and arrows and
So it's like a
doing
dreidel.
archery. So they were playing archery.
It was like a cover-up, that's what Barry
Yeah,
said.
yeah.
Same thing happened.
It makes sense, it was the right generation for such a story to
Same thing
happen.
happened in Hanukkah with Sabivon with
Yeah, what it has to do with like Baomer, I'm not sure. My wife is going to look it up, okay? She's the Rebbe's in for
What about track and field day?
It's an old Jewish custom from back in I don't know where. The song is called Ve'amaltem Kol Achai, and the chorus is like this. You're gonna practice with me. La 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 la. Hey la 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 la. Ah la 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 la. Hey la 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 la. Ah la 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 la. Hey la 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 la. Ah la 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 la. One more time. La 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 la. Ah la 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 la. Hey la 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 la. שבטו עם חברים, את גל אסון נסתרים, אדוני
טוב. שלום הרב על משכבו, מה יופיו ומה טובו, דובר מדירבו.
אדוננו בר יוחאי ואמרתם כל אחד, רבי שמעון בר יוחאי ואמרתם כל אחד, רבי שמעון בר יוחאי. Together, Torah תאמר גזרנו, ומאירת עינינו, הוא ימליץ טוב עלינו. אדוננו בר יוחאי ואמרתם כל אחד, רבי שמעון בר יוחאי ואמרתם כל אחד, רבי שמעון צדיקאי ואמרתם כל אחד, רבי שמעון בר יוחאי ואמרתם כל רבי שמעון צדיקאי. לשנה הבאה, לשנה הבאה, לשנה הבאה בירושלים. לשנה הבאה, לשנה הבאה, לשנה הבאה בירושלים. לשנה הבאה בירושלים הבנויה. לשנה Thank you. For a beautiful night. We're going to count right now Sfirat Baomer together. And if anybody wants to stick around, let's pray our beat. We might even have them again. I didn't count.